Everything's coming up greener.
Here's Harold Matthews. He is
The Garden Doctor. The Garden Doctor.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the March Garden Doctor Show right here in Connorsville, Indiana. We want to welcome everybody that's new to the show. Maybe, you fell asleep, woke back up, and, what's this guy on there for? But I have a beautiful lady with me, so you know that.
Oh, thank you. That's too kind.
Yes, wait, it's you this time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. Same one, yeah.
The same
Okay.
lady. And we do a show about gardening. We try to do it once a month during most of the season. And this is a live show, so we invite you to call in with your questions. And we're going to try to give you a bunch of answers right now. This snow that's out there, everybody is, it's awful late and this is unusual and everything. And honestly, it's not. The last storms expected in Indiana, appreciable snow, is the last of March. The last days of March, first days of April is quite common for us to get snowstorms. Now, the thing about snow is it insulates. So it is not detrimental to anything that is growing underneath it. It actually puts a warm blanket on it and keeps it just the way it is. So if it's frozen, it keeps it frozen. If it's thawed, it keeps it thawed. And this is how nature wants things to happen, because nature doesn't like extremes. It likes things to be leveled out a little bit more. But the extremes are what defines an area. If right here where we are now, it got as cold as it used to get, then many of the insects that we're bothered with today that are killing the ash and different things would be not a problem at all. The borers, when you go further north, where the birch trees are native, it's still cold enough to kill the birch borer, but down here it's not. We're too warm, and so the birch borer doesn't die, and it continues to grow and feed and just eats the tree up. But again, we want to welcome everybody from wherever you are, snowed in as you may be. I don't know how that's possible.
Well, I have to tell you, it's like you said, it is a lot about consistency, because here we are, it's getting slightly warmer, and then comes along these beautiful days of mild weather, sunshine, mild temperatures, and then all of a sudden we're going to have 10 inches of snow. I think that's what shocks us.
It is. And if we had like we did last year, and I had copies of the records here, I was quite impressed with the number of records that we broke last year. That it was amazing. It was over 800 records that
between
were broke.
drought, between rainfall,
and just the temperatures in March. And I only looked for the records in 2 days. The
first day of spring was last
22nd
Wednesday.
and 24th of March in 2013. This year we broke 197 records.
Now that could be highs, lows, rainfall, snowfall, whatever.
Most of them were lows. And then the same period last year, we broke over 800 records in the United States.
Oh my goodness. Well,
800 records. Some of them that had been standing since the beginning of record keeping.
There has got to be no doubt in anybody's mind that the climate change is
things
here.
are changing, and they're changing rapidly, and that's the reason for the record. In 2011, we broke 329 records.
Wow.
In 2010, only 111, and when I looked into it a little further, it appears that nationwide it's not that uncommon to break 75 or 80 records a year, because they keep records on all sorts of things. So, but mostly this was records only on cold temperatures, warm temperatures, snowfall, or the lack of. So in 2010, as I said, 111, 2009, 181. And that's where we stand today.
And I would expect there in future years to be much more of this, especially with the storms that we have coming in, these late hurricanes that have ravaged the coast, becoming more prevalent or more dangerous or something they're becoming. They're becoming something, honey.
They're quite becoming.
They're
aren't they?
quite becoming.
And they're coming. And but we have to be ready for them. You have to think we're in a different time, and we're moving into yet a more different time. And the key word is uncertainty, because there are no guarantees. But I can tell you that we will be facing droughts, and that we will be facing high temperatures,
Yes.
and we will be facing extremes of wind. And rain. Floods are not going to be uncommon. So you've got those extremes to deal with. Plus, we're moving into a higher temperate zone, so we're warmer than we used to be. So when you go to select a plant, bear in mind what conditions you're going to put it in, that it's going to have to survive for the next 50, 75, or 100 years, and select your plant very, very wisely. Some of the plants that I had suggested in the past, I'm not now. We have a caller. We always interrupt
thank
everything
you
that we're
for
doing
calling.
for a caller. Yes, you're on the air with
Welcome.
Mr. and Mrs. Garden Doctor. What can we do for you?
Yes, I'd like to talk to the garden doctor.
You
Good
go
to
right
see him
ahead.
back
Thank you very much.
after so long. I really missed him.
It's been a long winter for all of us.
It sure has.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that call. Is there anything in particular that we can help you with?
Yes, I'm just wondering what I've got. I don't know what it is. It's some kind of little plant, and it just got my flower beds covered up. I dug them up last fall and took them all, dug up the dirt and took all I thought I got all of them out. I'm pretty sure I did, but
Now
they come back real thick in my flowers, and I want something to kill them.
Some kind of creeping thing?
Are the flowers that are in that bed, are they still there?
Yes.
Or is it just an open bed where these weeds grow that you put flowers in?
Yes.
Okay,
It's
so there is
green.
there is a period of time when there's nothing in there except those weeds? Is it right now? Are there other plants in there as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But these have just took over.
Yeah.
Took over the whole bed.
Well, there's a number of things. There's creeping Charlie. There's mouse ear. There's a lot of low growing weeds. Now this is a low growing weed, I'm assuming.
Like a creeper, crawler?
It's a plant. It's been a flower. I don't know what kind it is. It's got a little bulb on it.
Is it that bouncing Betty? Is it yellow?
So I don't know what the name of it is, but it was here when we lived here.
What color blossom does it have?
White.
White.
White. And it's not a lily of the valley or anything like that?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, it doesn't matter.
If you want it out of there, it's a weed.
Yeah, if you want it gone, exactly, it's a weed. So, and if it's that prolific, a lot of times we buy perennials and we don't even read that they're invasive. And some of the plants, I've done it myself. I've put plants in landscape and come back in 3 or 4 years and they've ripped up the sidewalk, for crying out loud. There's certain plants that you really don't want in certain environments. Now, again, the same plant, if I was putting it for erosion control on a bank that I want it to spread and never die, and those are great plants for that. But to get rid of a plant that is in a bed where there are other things growing, you have to use some caution. I take flower pots, turn them upside down over my plants, especially this time of the year.
The ones you want to keep, the good
ones I want to keep. The younger they are, the easier they are to cover. If they're a hard stem, you don't have to worry about them as much.
I would cover them.
But I think that you get some negative reaction from almost every chemical.
And now is a good time, or soon in the spring,
Well,
when your plants are starting to come out.
We're too early. You're going to have to wait until they start to bud. But what I would do right now is I would fertilize that area with a liquid fertilizer as soon as the snow is off. That way you're going to stimulate the growth of this weed. A weed that is healthy and happy is easier to kill. So you want to get it nice and happy and healthy. So put a liquid fertilizer on there, Miracle Grow, Rapid Grow, we don't care.
Get it going, it's spring.
Then when it starts to bud up and it's grown up about 2 inches I like it to be full leafed. Then read very carefully on the label, and the Roundup line and all
And
of
then
the other
this is
lines.
where you cover your ones that you want to keep with the upside down cans or
that are
cups.
the appropriate size.
Bucket.
Yeah. You can use just about anything because this will wash out. But I use flower pots because they seem to do the best job for me. And you don't have to saturate the whole ground. All you're doing with this weed control spray, and you can buy it ready to use at your local hardware store.
No mixing, ready
anywhere.
to spray.
And you want to make sure that you get the one that is going to do the job you're asking for. But you just put enough on there to saturate the foliage. So
Yep.
once the leaves are wet, just barely to the point of runoff, you're done.
Don't need any more than that. Yeah.
Be very careful not to walk in there or to let your pets walk in there when it's wet for the next 3 days. Like when there's dew on it in the morning, because you will pick up some of the residual of that killer
And have dead footprints
and
in your
track
yard.
it all over the yard. But I believe that this will eradicate the roots. Now, you may need a second application. So you've burned off the first application. You wait for a second growth, because you can take your caps off, because just as soon as you spray, they're safe.
Yep.
Take those caps
How
off.
long should I wait?
You only have to wait about 7 to 10 days. You'll see one part of the plant dying and another part of it perhaps growing. And that's what you want to look for, because one application of a blanket weed killer is not necessarily enough to eradicate an invasive.
But as soon as it starts to turn green and come back again, you want to hit it again.
Yeah, you want to get it the second shot when it's still and it's young, but when it has some growth on it. It has to have some of the leaves developed out. Now, tilling that ground or working that ground may in fact spread that invasive plant. That may in fact create a problem. With some of these plants, you can have 3 or 4 of them in your garden run through the tiller, and all of a sudden they carpet the entire
You've spread
area.
it.
Because they can be spread by cuttings that you are inadvertently chopping up and burying in the ground, and they are very, very capable of that.
And even removing the soil, say if you were to remove this much soil from that bed, you would still possibly, and then fill it with
You're
new
not gonna get it
soil.
all.
You're never going to kill them all. They're going to come back without spraying them.
There's
to kill
a plant called Snow on the Mountain that I planted, and I love it as a ground cover. It's a beautiful north side of the house ground cover. You have to cut it off in July or it gets ratty, and then you let it come back up. Has a leaf that looks like snow is on the leaf, green and white. Beautiful plant. But if you let it get out of its confines, it will take over. You'll have it everywhere. Zoysia grass, good idea in the south. Grows in drought areas, but it was brought up here, and many of the lawns up by the high school used zoysia grass, and for 5 or 6 years you couldn't even see it, didn't even know it was there. Then all of a sudden it started to take off. Oh, isn't that nice? Isn't that wonderful? Then after about 10 years it had crept over into the neighbor's yard. Now the neighbor's out there with a shotgun, and every time they move, because that stuff, when it turns brown in the late summer, it is terrible. It's just unsightly.
Well, let's narrow it down then for her. What she wants to do is wait a few weeks for everything to start to sprout.
As soon as it
Okay.
starts to
Okay.
sprout, that could even be in the middle and the next week.
Then you want to use cans, protect anything to cover up your plants
Fertilize
you
first.
want to keep. Oh, that's right. Sorry, I missed a
Fertilize.
step. Fertilize everything first. Then, when you're ready to spray,
Now, fertilize, then you're going to wait about a week because you got to let that soak in.
okay,
Get going.
get fertilized. And then when you're ready to spray with your weed killer, you want to cover your plants with your individual containers, whatever, to protect them from any spray. Spray all of the weeds. by
One thing's missing.
What did I miss?
The pH. Take a very inexpensive pH test. You can go to the drugstore or anywhere, get a litmus paper, get a little pH kit if you
It's
want
like
to.
a pool kit, right? And,
If you have a negative pH, it is possible, or even a way high positive pH, it is possible that what is growing there would stop growing there much easier if your pH was adjusted properly. I would think that you're in an acid situation. So you're probably going to have a 5 or a 5.5. That means that the weed can grow profusely, but the plant's not so good. So if you raise it up to a 6 by putting in some calcium, dolomite lime, pelletized lime, powdered lime.
Which can't hurt anything anyway.
Well,
can it?
unless her pH is too high.
Okay.
So if you get your pH, you work that stuff in the ground a little bit, and you get your pH up a little bit, then that weed becomes much easier to kill,
Because
and
it
it doesn't
doesn't
like
like
to
it.
grow there, and your plants like it so much better. Many times, I've said it on this show before often, many times the only thing that your lawn needs is a balance of pH, and it'll release the nutrients that are in that ground, and you've got a beautiful lawn without the need of any fertilizer. How are we doing so far?
Fine.
Okay.
You got to spray them to kill them. I guess that's the bottom
Now, where
line.
do I get this pH? Go to get this.
The pH kits were available at Wells Variety and at the Fayette Feed and at Gilman's. I went around to everybody and told them
That's
I
a
wanted
pH
these.
soil
I wanted
test.
these on the shelf. They were supposed to get them.
pH soil test.
A pH soil test. Yeah, and you don't need a big kit. You just want to test the pH of the soil. If they would sell it to you, all you need is a piece of litmus paper and a little tube.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they give you 3 or 4 tubes, but it's enough to do it 8 or 10 times. And what you do is you split the cost with about 10 neighbors, and you
There
can
you go.
test the whole neighborhood. But it's
That's
very
true.
inexpensive, and it is very important to know what your pH is. And please call us back and tell us how you did. We love to hear about the positive results.
I sure will.
We
Okay.
never have negative results. So.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you,
Well, thank
and
you
we
for calling.
appreciate your call very much. Speaking of the snow that has fallen here, I didn't even know what I was talking about before, but
Well, I was going to go on to positive results.
okay, well, it's my show.
Oh.
Just
I guess he told me.
so,
It's my show.
so snow has in it what people don't
snow?
realize is that snow is full of nitrogen. So is the rain. The rain is full of nitrogen, but the rain comes so fast and runs off so fast that the nitrogen that's in the water doesn't have a chance to absorb into the snow, or the soil. But snow lands and then it melts very slowly, and that nitrogen that is there goes into the soil and is available for the plants. So much so that there is a rating for how many pounds of nitrogen that you get out of the snow, depending on how deep it is. So this snow, being a late snow, is all you need for your spring application on your lawn. Don't put down any nitrogen. You
Really
don't need it.
awesome.
This will save you a fortune.
And then, of course, the first time you mow your grass, you don't rake your clippings and you add some nitrogen to the soil.
Never rake
right?
that first
That's
clipping.
Right.
Very good.
You see, I remembered. I listened.
Been married to her for
Sometimes
12 years. She's learned
I
one
listened
thing.
to one thing. That's right. I did.
Now, yes, that's exactly right. Do not pick up your first mowing, your first trimmings. I don't care how tall it is. Mow it and leave it. It is full of nitrogen, phosphorus, potash, calcium, all of the nutrients and ingredients that is necessary wintered over in that plant. And when you mow it off and take it away, you're giving it to the compost pile. Keep it in your own yard. And did you have something you would like to say?
Well, I don't know. It's
You
your
may.
show. Is it okay now?
It's all you.
Are you sure? Okay.
I'm certain.
Yeah, speaking
Please
of
call in. It's a live show, too, by the way.
progress of things, yes, please do give us a call. We are here live. This is the first show of the year, spring, with a bunch of snow on the ground. But I did want to talk about future results that we'd like to see on different things. Last year, you may remember, my father had sent me a plant, nice plant basket from New Hampshire for me for, I forget what occasion. Here's the card. I'm not very good at house plants. I'm the garden doctor's wife. I can grow about anything outdoors. House plants die a slow, painful death. However, my father, if you remember, got me this flower pot, and when it is low on water, it sings. Yes, raindrops keep falling. Well, I have used this flower pot, and look, I don't know if you can see. I don't want to. They got the green screen behind me. Yes. And look, is it disappearing? It's disappearing.
It's the ghost
The
plant.
green screen. Well, it is growing, thriving, and surviving. And why? Because I have a signal to tell me when to water. And in addition, I only water all of my other house plants when this plant tells me it is dry. And I have had success, and now this year have survived 4 or 5 houseplants through the winter, so I'm very proud of myself, and it was all thanks to this nifty little gadget here that drives you crazy when it starts singing in the middle of the night. But
Absolutely, positively true. She kills
So,
every houseplant ever brought.
yay, I
but
did
then
it.
Now she does not overwater. Overwatering
Yes.
is what kills most plants. We're going to try to talk about some Easter lilies.
well,
and
and it also said the same thing here, that more plants die from overwatering than underwatering. That's the biggest problem with Easter lilies.
That is absolutely positively the worst thing that you can do for any plant is to overwater it because you'll rot the roots. Now, excuse me, some plants will survive in water. The lilies, for example, they'll survive if you put them in a pond or just in water, hydroponically. But most plants don't like to have their roots in water. They want the water available to them, and then they want it to pass on down through and out, and they want to absorb what they need, and then the rest of it to go away so that their roots don't rot. That's so in a potted environment, if you get a lily for Easter, and she's going to read you some directions on exactly how to care for it. But one of the things that you want to remember is that this lily came from a perfect greenhouse environment. Absolutely perfect. Whatever this plant needed, it got. When it needed water, it got it. When it needed cool, it got it. When it needed sunlight, it got it. When it needed shade, it got it. And they don't like direct sunlight. She'll tell you all. Did you had something to say though about this?
I don't know. I might just leave right now when you
I'm
can
not
do
going to
your
try
own
to take
show.
all of her fire. I'll let her do this. But what I do want you to start off with in your mind is that this came from a greenhouse. So when you put it in your house and something happens to it, it's not a perfect greenhouse environment that you have there. So try to mimic as best you can that perfect environment. Now, honey, how do you care for these plants that we? Are you ready?
I think I'm ready.
You
Well,
think The Easter lily in particular.
the Easter lily in particular. Actually, did you know that 95% of all Easter lilies sold here have come from the California-Oregon border area? They were brought here in 1919 from a soldier who brought them here from Japan in a suitcase. And then when Pearl Harbor happened, there was not as many bulbs coming into the country, and in that part of the country it was actually referred to as white gold. The lilies were referred to as white gold because it became such a lucrative business. Anyhow, they are grown in greenhouses in a forced bloom greenhouse environment. I've always tried to plant them after Easter. I have never had any luck with them growing and living after Easter until recently, when you showed me what I needed to do. And I think I was expecting too much too soon. The truth is, you plant your lily in the ground when the season is over, it's lost its blooms, Easter is over. You plant it, and it's pretty much going to just dwindle back for the whole entire rest of the year. At the end of the year, you cut it off at the ground, cover it up with some mulch to keep it warm for the winter, and then wait until next year, and it will start to come out again in the spring. However, Easter lilies do not bloom in the spring or on Easter. They are a June, July blooming flower
That's their natural,
natively,
yep,
and so they, you're not going to get any blooms. But they do make an excellent addition.
Now,
Eventually, they do take a couple years to really get going. I will
where
say
do they
that.
say is the best place to plant them?
Well, it says to plant them in well-drained soil, and you want a sunny location, in direct sun, not necessarily direct sun all day. However, it says that their roots like to be cool. So, and that's why they suggest a little extra mulch even after it comes back, and you've cleared it off for the spring. And when it comes back, leave some of that mulch piled up around because it does like its roots to be a bit on the cool side.
There are a number of plants, and that's a little confusing. When you get a plant and it says top in the sun, roots in the shade, as with clematis, lilies. There's a number of plants that prefer that type of environment. It's a little difficult
Yeah, it
to
took me a
provide
while to
that.
figure out how to
However,
do that,
Well,
yeah.
you can plant something like a juniper, Procumbrant nana, something that would carpet the ground
Yep, a
and
ground
still
cover.
allow the plant to be up above there. You can mulch.
I've
and
even put stones
a
over the
stone
soil.
is the best
around
way
my clematis.
to do it on a clematis because it's cool under that stone. The roots will always be cool and a little bit moist, which is what a clematis
Now I
likes.
have something very important. Easter is coming, and I don't know which camera to look at. I haven't been here in so long, so I'll just look.
Look at this
I'll pick one. Okay, up here. Is it that one? No, that one. That one. Okay. These Easter lilies, Easter is coming Sunday, and I know a lot of people, buy the Easter lilies. They're beautiful. We love them. They are deadly poisonous to cats. If a cat eats one leaf or one flower petal, they can have kidney failure and die within an hour, within minutes. They can die. So it is extremely toxic to cats. Please keep that in mind.
If you have cats, it's always
Well, of
a good
course,
idea.
if you have cats,
Well,
it
no.
wouldn't matter if you don't have cats.
She's picking on me today. If you have cats,
If you don't have
that
cats,
doesn't mean
forget
that you
everything I
can't
just said.
you can't have an Easter lily. However, I would proceed with caution because she's not kidding.
Yeah,
but let
really.
me tell you, there's a lot of plants in your yard that are poisonous. The seeds off from
This
the
is
yew can
poisonous.
jerk-
This
can
is your
jerk you.
philodendron
Well,
houseplant is poisonous
yes.
to cats or any animals.
One of the most poisonous plants
Or
in your
children.
yard is a lily of the valley. Dieffenbachia will take away your voice. There's a lot of things that you have to be careful of in your yard, and especially with animals because they're curious, and cats in particular will dig in the soil. A lot of times it's been fertilizers, pesticides, insecticides, and nematicides used in the soil. So
That's correct.
You've got to be real careful about that. And they will eat the plant because they want to eat something. Provide them with a chia type
I love
thing
that.
where the grasses are and everything, specifically for cats.
And you don't have to really go buy the chia thing. You get cat grass seeds, and you can make a little
Yeah, you
pot.
can, yeah.
You can make yourself a cat garden. My daughter-in-law has a cat garden, and the cat has its own plants to chew on, and it does stay away from the rest of the plants in
So
the house.
some guy from where brought these plants, bulbs?
A soldier in World War I brought a suitcase full of bulbs from Japan back home to his Oregon home. And they began growing them there, and that is now considered the Easter lily capital of the world. 95% of the 11.5 million Easter lilies grown and sold originate there.
Wow.
Isn't that awesome?
I want to remind you, it's a live show.
Yeah, give us a call.
We are live. Watch.
Ouch!
See? We're live.
Okay.
And call in if you have a question, if you have any comments or anything like that. We would love to hear from
Oh.
you. We have things that have come in from listeners and viewers that we really wanted to cover here, and one of them is and one of my is this Easter thing. I wanted to go over the meaning of the Easter flower, which some things I wasn't aware of, but she does not agree with entirely. One of the most famous references to the Easter flower.
If it's a story, it's like blah, 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 blah.
Of course, is the
blah,
biblical
blah,
reference,
blah.
Sermon on the Mount, when Christ said, "Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin, and yet Solomon, in all his glory, was not arrayed like one of these." However, through the ages, tales have been linked to
You
lilies
didn't know that word.
to the sacrament of the motherhood. What? Ancient
Allegorical.
fable, allegorical?
Keep going.
Ancient fables tell us the lily sprang from the milk of Hera. And I wasn't there, I just missed it, but I believe that to be true. And the mythical queen of
She's the
heaven.
mythological queen of heaven, yes.
Read the rest of that.
Okay, Roman mythology credits lilies to Juno, the queen of the gods. The story goes that while Juno was nursing her son Hercules, excess milk fell from the sky.
Yes,
Although part of it remained above the earth, thus creating the Milky Way,
yeah, now don't read sarcastically.
the
move along.
remainder fell to the earth, creating lilies.
And what could be more simple than that? I mean, that's just
And
common
that's
sense.
a factual account
That's
of how
common
that
sense
happened.
right there, right there.
One
Common
thing.
sense.
Oh, hey, one
Let
thing.
me warn you. What? One thing. Go ahead.
No, well, one thing. Okay, one thing. A lot of the Easter lilies grown in these greenhouses
Oh, I wanted to tell you about this virus. with the
come with viruses. I'm not-
What? Go ahead.
Never mind. I'm not doing it.
Tell them about the virus.
They come with viruses, okay? So don't plant them anywhere near a lot of your other lily bulbs and stuff because they
There
might
you
catch
go.
the virus.
There you go.
Now you
That's
tell
all I
them
wanted
about
to
the
say.
virus.
And I also wanted to add that rotenone, which I've used for years and has been used in organic growing of gardens, we thought it was a safe product. It has been linked to, was it Alzheimer's or was it?
He forgot. I wonder.
Parkinson's.
There you go.
It was linked to causing Parkinson's disease.
No kidding.
And so no longer rotenone, no longer on the list.
Now,
7,
what was rotenone used for? I'm
it's
not
an
familiar
organic. It's
with
an
that.
organic insecticide that we used for years. We'd rotate
Yeah,
it
so
with
don't
7.
assume that everything organic is good for you. There's a lot of things that are organic, like arsenic is organic.
Hey,
right?
yeah. Why do we have a big jar of arsenic
Okay,
in
there's a
our
lot of
cabinet?
things organic that are not good for you. So, yeah, don't just because it
Arsenic.
says organic, don't get sucked into
One
that
side
whole
says
thing.
sugar, the other side arsenic. I don't get it. Anyway, I also wanted to tell you that I did a lot of research on the internet here recently, and I was trying to find some answers to some questions, and there is a lot of nonsense out there. There's stuff out there that is scary.
It is.
So be very careful.
On
If
the
you've-
internet,
If you've seen that commercial where the girl is, she's dating that guy from France, you know, and she believes everything that's on the internet.
I was
you
just
know.
going to say, everything on the internet is true.
Yeah.
If it was on the internet, it is factually true. That's, you know, and then
That's how I
don't
got
ever
it.
believe that.
So, but right now is the time to take care of some things on your plants that only can be done this time of the year, and that is to use the dormant oils and the lime sulfur. Now, that really is a smelly proposition. However, it is the most organic, safest, easiest, non-pollutant way to take care of so many carryover insects and diseases. Another thing with this lady, I was thinking about it, the one that just called in, I was thinking about this process called solarization. Now, I've done it for years, didn't even know what it was called, but as I was doing some research, I found it out. If it's at all possible to do that where you are, number one, you can kill weeds with hot water. Now, years
That's
ago,
right. I've read about
years
that
ago,
many times.
They used to do two things. They used to burn the weeds to get rid of them, and you don't have to burn the whole thing. You just
Down
have
the
to
root,
burn the top
crown.
off, or pour hot water on it, and it works fantastic on
Does
young
work.
poison ivy and on dandelions, things like that. We have a caller. We're going straight to the caller. Yes, you're on the line with the garden doctor. What can we do for you?
Yes, you're talking about Easter flowers,
Yes.
but I have a ZYGO cactus. I thought it was a Christmas cactus. But anyway, it's a ZYGO, and I bought it
Zygo.
Christmas of 2011. I have kept waiting for it to bloom again. It has never bloomed again. So how can I get it to bloom again?
Well, that's not unusual at all because there are gases missing that inspire this plant to produce a blossom. It has no reason to produce a blossom if it does not think that it has a purpose for that bloom. So you have to give it those pheromones that those gases that will convince it that in fact there is another mate out there. So there's a logic in the blossom.
Ooh, can we apple force it?
Yes, you
Oh,
do it
wow.
with a slice of apple.
Oh, this is my thing. I love this.
Tell them about
Yes,
it,
you
dear.
take a plastic bag and you put it over the plant. Now you want it very loose. You don't need it to be touching the plant. Just a loose tent over the plant. I don't know how big it is, big trash bag, little one, however. And then put an apple. It can be whole, I believe, or sliced. Either
gotta be
way,
cut.
it's got to be cut. and you put that apple up under the plastic. Doesn't have to be in the plant, and just in the plastic bag with the plant, and you leave that for 48 hours.
49.
Okay, dingbat.
48 will do. 48 will do.
48 hours, okay, and then you take the bag and the apple away. Any longer than that, you can, what is it, when it's condensation and wilt the plant and everything, take it away. Now, the pectin in the apple actually forces flowers to bloom. You can force a pineapple to bloom. I have forced bromeliads to bloom that way, and I believe it will work on the Christmas cactus that way. At least I'm hoping it will.
If you don't have a house full of cactus, cacti, cactarus, multiple cactus, then I still got
Why?
I don't know.
He just
got a
gave
wristband
blood.
from the hospital.
Yeah, no, he's on release.
Yeah,
I got to bring him back after the show.
It's a straight jacket.
But try force blooming it that way. That
Evelyn
interesting.
Wilson, a dear, sweet customer of mine, one of the dearest and sweetest of
I still
them
have
all.
a house plant of hers at home.
She
is
had
alive.
a cactus that had never bloomed, and she'd had it for 30 some odd years. And one day she called me and she said, "Oh my gosh, you've got to see it." It was actually called the Karen cactus. And she said, "You've got to see this, you've got to see this. Oh, it's just fabulous." So I came rushing over to see a cactus bloom. You know, this is what we do. This is my
How
life.
we are,
This
I
is
know.
my business. This is how I roll. And I run into the door, and there was this horrendous odor. And I went, "Was that me?" No. And I looked around for something dead. And what it is this plant produces a smell that attracts Karen flies and that's why it's called the Karen cactus. And it smelled like a rotting, decaying
Nice,
body.
lovely. I want one of those.
But it was a beautiful blossom, and it had only happened once, and I don't believe, I believed it bloomed like 2 or 3 times after that. And what had happened is she had stored, I believe, her apples over there on that. She moved her house
it got
around.
that pectin
and
acid.
one of them
It's an
had
air acid.
started to decay some, and they got that in the
But
air.
the Zygo name on your cactus, I believe that may be either the color or just the strain, or I don't think it really tells you anything unusual about the plant. It's probably just a Christmas cactus. But try that with the forced blooming. I think it'd be neat to see. And it takes another month or so to see if anything comes of it. But
and we would love to hear
yes,
if it
please.
works.
We'll be back on our regular shows, and we love to hear progress reports.
Was there anything else you needed?
That will be all. I'll try it. I'd never heard that before.
Well, thank you very much, and
Thank
call
you so much
somebody
for
and
calling.
tell them that we're on.
Okay.
Tell
All
him
right.
he's crazy.
Have
too.
a wonderful day.
You too.
Speaking of growing things, I have something
Nobody
to
was
talk
speaking
about.
of growing things.
What are we talking about the whole show? Okay, growing stuff, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Speaking of growing things, as you all know, my husband's been growing his hair and growing his beard.
That's right.
For a couple of years now, and I have really been on his tail about cutting his hair.
On my
okay,
tail?
really, really, get over it now. We're done. If you had your fun, cut your hair. However, wouldn't you know it, the Connorsville Bicentennial is this year. And there are some amazing, I was very impressed with the schedule week-long of events that they are going to be having. One of the things they are going to be having is a beard contest. Wouldn't you know it?
Brothers of the Bush.
Oh, I knew he was going to say that.
The Bush.
Okay, it's Brothers of the Brush. Okay,
It's not brush.
Brothers of the
what
Brush.
That's what I cut down and get out
I
of
don't
people's
believe
yards.
you just said that. It's Brothers of the Brush. And they are going to have a beard contest in old-timey clothes, top hats, everything else. So now, instead of trying to get him to cut his beard, I'm encouraging to let's get it to grow some more beard.
Well,
Look at this thing.
I'm going to cut it up into some lamb chops.
They haven't seen you in 3 months. They turned on the TV and said, "What do you mean? Christmas is over. It's Santa Claus." So yes, he is still growing his beard. I am in full support until the end of the Bicentennial here in Connorsville, and then schwack.
Then track, it's gone.
Okay.
Yes.
What's
now, I
next
was
on
back
your
on the if you have fruit trees, if you have plants that have problems, now do not do this on blackberries blueberries and raspberries, and check very carefully to make sure that there's nothing on the list that you're not supposed to spray with dormant oil and sulfur. But this is when you do it before the buds come out, when you have the opportunity. Dormant oil is a fantastic product. It coats the insects that harbor over their eggs and it suffocates them. And you don't have to go later and spray while they're eating on your fruit and do things like that. Now you can use neem oil right up until harvest. It's a really good product. As a matter of fact, it's used for toothpaste in somewhere right here in India. It's used for toothpaste in India.
Have you seen their teeth?
They don't have it. That doesn't make any difference as long as they'll use it for toothpaste. No, it is. It's it's a very good product.
If I've offended anybody, I apologize in advance.
Now I want my wife to read one of our listeners. Very good listener, looked this up for us from her father's recipe. This is her father's recipe for dormant spray. Read this.
Okay. 1 cup of liquid dish soap, 1 cup of chewing tobacco juice, 1 cup of antiseptic mouthwash. Wow, that sounds potent. Mix in 20-gallon hose and sprayer. So you put that in your hose-on applicator that covers so
20
many.
gallon.
Okay.
I don't know who has that, but
Filling the balance of the sprayer jar with warm water. No, it's a 20-gallon, meaning whatever's in there will mix into 20 gallons of stuff.
okay.
Okay, anyway. Apply this soap solution to the plants and then use a dormant spray oil over the top. In early spring, before the buds swell up and open, repeat these steps.
You know, that may sound a little old-fashioned and over the top.
What is this for?
But it actually is one of the best formulas that is out there for a dormant spray on fruit trees. And this would control and kill so many insects and diseases that you probably would not have to do a whole lot. Now, if you added that to this solarization, which I didn't get to thoroughly explain to you, and I'll work on that here in a second, you can probably get rid of most of your problems, so you don't have to be out there spraying chemicals all the time. Because I'm here to tell you, we way overspray stuff.
We do.
We want to.
And things like dish soap have you use dish soap, soap has so many good qualities, and it's way less toxic.
Well,
now,
the reason that dish soap works is because the exoskeleton of the insects is made up primarily of dirt. That's what it's made up of. So when you put the soap on there, it dissolves their body. Their shell is dissolved. Now when you spray with your insecticide, you're spraying into the animal itself, the insect itself, and you're not, because when it just lands on that shell, it just comes off.
and of course, this
Especially
type
like
of
scales.
liquid is going to actually stick to the leaf and have a long-lasting effect. And I see it's right below the rototone. That's terrible on it, and then the neem. So I'm assuming this is what she used as her recipe from her grandfather.
Her grandfather.
That she always used and never needed any of this stuff.
We were talking about nitrogen earlier. The amount of nitrogen that is dropped by snow that we get every year, and it's really quite phenomenal. But we also get nitrogen from. It's about the equivalent of 10 pounds per acre per year, the nitrogen that we get from snow. Now, if you add that to the nitrogen that we get from lightning, which is an astronomical amount because of the action that goes on, the gas that's in the air, the nitrogen, and the water combine through this process of lightning to convert into a mineral form that can be absorbed by the plants. Now these things go on totally without us needing to do anything, and they provide tremendous amounts of natural nitrogen to our plants for growth. That's the main thing that we use for growth. What we do is we want to really mega dose the process of everything, and sometimes that's not a good idea. You take the value out of the plant if it grows too fast. You don't put the nutrients packed into there that we should be a little bit more concerned about. But
I wanted to get to, you had a really interesting thing about the meanings of some plant names. But before we get to that, about the Easter lilies.
yes,
One of the most popular cultivar grown for Easter lilies is a white Easter lily, and it's called Nellie White. And Nellie was a selection made by grower James White and named for his wife.
oh my God.
I thought that was very
What a
sweet.
sappy
Yes, and he has some other interesting names and what they mean.
First, I have to get to this
Okay,
mushroom.
let's do it.
He insisted that. Well,
Let's
I got to
do
do
it.
my thing first.
Well, we don't need plant
My
names.
thing
Let's
is,
do it.
I really have a problem with the miles per gallon that we get and the targets that we shoot for. In Europe, and the average that they expect from their automobiles in 2013, right now, this year, is 40 miles to the gallon.
And to me, that isn't that impressive, and I'll tell you why. Because when I was a kid in the 70s in Miami, waiting in gas lines and everything else, they were coming out with little cars, the Jetta, the Golf, the Civic, that were getting 40 miles an hour then.
40 miles to the
40
gallon.
miles to the gallon then.
And let me tell you, I
If
thought
we've
maybe
been
it was-
working on this for
Oh, wow.
40 years since
This is
then.
insane. It's really
And we're
insane.
bragging about 30 miles a gallon.
They're shooting over there. They're
Ridiculous.
shooting for around 60 miles to the gallon in the next 5 years. We're happy to go for
We're still
30
going
miles to the
9
gallon.
in my big
And-
SUV. Right?
And that's just foolishness. But let me tell you, back in I did a search just of 1979, 80, and 90. And
Oh, I haven't seen this.
1979, 1980, 1981. The vehicles that got 50 miles to the gallon or more: Omni, Dodge Omni, Plymouth Horizon.
I remember the Horizon.
The Dodge Tomaso.
Never heard of
it.
that.
the Plymouth
Turismo. I remember
Turismo.
that.
The Plymouth Turismo.
The Ford Escort was up there at 44.
Now the Ford Escort, I want to tell you,
and
came
they're
with
only
a
bragging.
diesel motor.
They don't even get that now.
It got 44 miles to the gallon then, and if you put a diesel motor in it, you would go 1 million miles if you maintained it properly. And it didn't really take that much. It was very cheap to maintain, because Bob Fleming owned one. He went over 1 million miles on it. I saw it do it, and he was getting 52 miles to the gallon.
Yours was the
in
Mercury
diesel.
Lynx, actually.
Mine was a
which is
Mercury
the
Lynx
same, but-
diesel station wagon. I was getting 45, 50, 60 miles, or 51 miles to the gallon.
But just
was my
as a
maximum.
combination, as for comparison
these
purposes,
pages.
give me that.
What?
Is that the Ford Escort at 44 miles on the highway? I do not think the Ford Escort gets that on the highway today.
No, because we add all of this stuff,
You got your-
and we've lowered our expectations. What the heck is wrong
See,
with
the
us?
Honda Civic had come out in 81, 80 to 80. It was getting 40.
I have
Look at
got
them all.
pages and
oh,
pages.
who's 50 here? The Toyota Starlet.
I've got pages and pages of 40 to 41, 42,
There's nothing less
46,
than 40 on here.
55, the Rabbit, the Volkswagen Rabbit. And all of these cars were on the road in 1979,
What have we been doing for
80, and
40
81.
years?
Now, let me tell you something else that really provokes me. I have a friend of mine that I email back and forth in Europe. He gets internet, he gets telephone, and he gets television. And he can watch every channel all over the world, not just there. He can watch a soccer game in Africa,
Well, like we
or
get-
a soccer game in the United States.
We get BBCA, but we can't have the real BBC. That's because that's
He
what
gets
cable
everything.
tells us what we're going to have.
In his package, he gets a three-way package: TV, phone, internet. He has tremendous service, almost never gets interrupted. He has almost no dead zones with his phone. His download speed is 10 times what mine is, and I'm on high speed. And he pays $40
You've
American
gotta be
money
kidding
a month.
me.
$40 a month.
Ah.
And that's the kind of service that he gets over there. Now, that type of service over here would cost you $150, and you would get 1/10 1/10 the speed. 1/10. So we can't keep up.
What are we doing here?
We're going to fall behind, and we're doing
in
it
technology and automobiles,
and we're ripping off the people, and nobody seems to want to stand up, and it's aggravating.
But if we can't compete globally, then that's the ruination of us. So we've got to be able to.
So now on a much
bring that up.
sweeter note.
Oh, you're going to be sweet now?
I'm going to be sweet. Yeah, I've got some names here, but I've got to get to
Uh-oh,
this
he's
mushroom
taking
thing. Don't let
names.
me get completely
Talk
lost in this.
mushrooms, honey.
I'm going to talk mushrooms right here.
Let's do it.
Now, I have found that there are hundreds of places on the internet that you can buy mushroom spore. The particular question came in on morels. Everybody loves morels, and the price of them has gone through the roof.
Wow.
They are very, very expensive.
Everyone,
So-
I found some in the last couple of years. People have offered to buy them from me.
Yeah,
It's
we
crazy.
found
Yeah.
quite a few one year. She did.
The year before
And,
last.
Anyway,
Anyway,
you can seed if you find an area where you find them. Make sure that you leave them. Okay, pick the mushrooms, but put them in a container.
I've been saving my potato sacks that are mesh.
They have to have holes.
They said that is the ruination of the crop of mushrooms. Why you don't find them as profusely? Because we're collecting them in plastic Walmart bags, and
Everybody takes a plastic.
we're not leaving the spores. You save your mesh potato bags, what have you, and that way as you walk, you're shaking the spore.
Give them to the kids, let them shake them, whatever, as they're walking through the woods. Now, when you get home, hang them someplace that you have a collection tray underneath them. That can be a plastic, so that before you use them, because usually you don't take them right home and eat them, they get a chance to mature a little bit and maybe drop a few more spore. Or take them home, hang them up for a little bit in the shade in a woodshed or something, and then before you process them to eat them, take them out in the yard and shake them around in some shady places out there. May take 2 years, but you may be surprised
But like
at what
you
you
said,
get.
you could buy spore for golden sponge mushrooms. Find a place where you have found them before, here and there, obviously good conditions, and spread those spore everywhere, be in good conditions you know they like. Is that a way to propagate a little mushroom farm?
Yes, but you have to do it this way, or you have to provide the environment that they want to grow. You can't just throw them out somewhere because they won't grow.
Somewhere
if
you
want
found
white button
them.
mums or white button mushrooms, you can sow those in your garden. You can't use a fungicide. You have to let the mowing go sometimes, but you will walk out one spring and the whole thing, it looked like the fairies came the night before, because I did it at the nursery, Neil Seed and Landscape. I sowed that entire field. The guy brought me down some samples, and he told me how to do it and what to do, and I sowed it. Never saw a thing. Forgot all about it. One spring rolled around 2 years later, and it was carpeted out
Bam!
there. It was amazing. We were picking 5 and 10 pounds.
Oh, my.
And just sit down and just pick them. They were everywhere. And they came the next year, and then they were gone. And then the next year we had a few. So, but I think we made the mistake of picking clean without spreading the spore. So anyway, what I'm going to tell you now is that if you're going to grow mushrooms, you can do it in your house with a kit. Buy a kit. Take a cabinet under the sink or whatever.
Sounds like aggravation. A lot of
No, it's a lid. You put some water in it. You close the darn thing, and you mark on your calendar that 20 days from now, open.
But your conditions
You're done.
have to be perfect, right?
If it's under the sink in the
Okay.
shade, and you buy the kit, conditions are
Okay,
perfect.
all right.
Okay,
then.
that is one way to do it. But if you want to grow a little bit bigger on the outside, it's important to find a place in the shade. It's best if you can find a place that's a little bit on the acid side. And here's what you do to it. You want to put some manure in there. You don't want to use sawdust that is going to pack up too fine. You can use wood chips, but it may take a while for things to develop properly. Ash is a good wood to use chips from. Now, you also want to burn some logs and use the ashes, unless you have a wood stove and you can get ashes, because you need about 4 or 5 buckets of wood ash.
Really?
They seem to grow better on burnt soil.
Oh, my.
Okay, so you're going to create a burnt soil. So you scatter some of the wood ashes around and get them out of your fireplace. The manure is important. you want to get good fresh manure. And manure, there's different qualities of manure. You know, you got to smell it a little bit, taste it, make sure that you're getting the good stuff.
I don't know anything about manure.
Well, I'll teach you, honey. You be the taste tester.
No,
We'll
you
be
can
fine.
stay the expert. Okay.
What you don't want to get is you don't want to get manure from a place that is using that is hyping their animals on steroids and so forth. So a racehorse supply, not a good idea.
Grass-fed cattle, on the other hand.
Grass-fed, they need a little bit of grain because you
Okay.
need things in
But
there
still
to
good
work.
poop.
Yeah, still good poop. But you want to avoid the antibiotics because it will
For
prevent
obvious reasons.
the spore from growing.
That continues down the chain.
Yeah, that just continues
and,
right on down the chain, and
big
it'll kill
problems.
everything. So if you have a place where a horse is raised or something that you can get some manure, work some manure into the area, scatter it out around. But you want the wood ashes, the burnt wood, and even bigger chunks of the wood. You don't have to have it all real fine. Then it says that you're supposed to put some sphagnum peat moss out.
Love the peat.
And this we're dealing with is a 5 by 5 square foot area to get started with. You're just putting down enough to.
But can you imagine making your own little area where come springtime, you know you're going to find mushrooms. You
and
have already
this
created.
can be your
Yes.
morels. Now, if it works,
You
then
could
you can
sell
allow
them.
it just to grow out. No, it'd be for your own use. That would probably produce enough for
Sell them
for
to
a
your
good,
friends.
good family.
When I do this, it's a secret. They can't hear me.
Now, I want to tell you about the names of some of these plants that I thought were just fabulous, or what the plants mean. I mean,
Yeah, the plant. What the plant name means. Right.
yeah. If you give somebody ambrosia, for example, it means your love is reciprocated. If you give anemone, it's forsaken.
Anemone,
Anemone, it's forsaken. I always have a problem with that. Aster, symbol of love and daintiness. I don't think I'm going to give that to my sweetie. right here.
Whatever. I like cactus.
What? Cactus.
Endurance.
Endurance, yes. Give you a cactus. We will endure. Yeah. A camellia, pink one, pink camellia, longing for you.
Oh my word. And you know, there are so many things we wanted to get to today. I think we have been just saving it
We
up
went
for
like
you.
a house
I
of
have
fire today.
information here about companion planting, the three
Oh, companion
sisters,
plant.
the different things you're supposed to plant
If
together.
you don't know about companion planting, you can't make it through the snow.
Let me finish
You'll
this.
never make it.
And then you have good and bad companions. There's things you should never plant together, things you definitely plant apart, things you should plant together, the reasons why. Then there's a whole thing about pest control, natural pest control.
Natural pest control.
You know, planting,
Just say no.
like for instance, white flowering chrysanthemums repel Japanese beetles. We've had a
thunk
big
it?
problem with Japanese
That's
beetles
right.
around here. So I had a whole list
Compatible
of
planting
things.
is a fantastic thing. We may have to come back and do another show.
Well, I think we shall, because this is a lot of information. We really want to get this out to you. We've done a lot of talking, catching up, because we've missed doing the show. And so I'm sorry we didn't get to all of that.
There are some serious topics that we need to cover, so we may have to jump in with something else.
I have to
going on here.
mention I'm wearing my Aunt B's ring that she gave me. It was from Aunt B. I'm wearing that on the show tonight.
Isn't that
And-
lovely?
Yes, and I
I
have
was
to.
wondering whom gave you that.
I have to give a shout out to my son, who will be 33 coming up April
Holy
5th,
mackerel.
and to your
She
grandson.
was 9 when he was born.
Grandson Mikey will, I'm not sure how old he'll be, but that's on April
no,
6th.
16, won't he?
Yay, I'm
think
not
he'll be
sure.
16.
I can't keep track. They grow up so fast. What are you going to do?
Love you all, children, grandchildren, and everybody in the viewing area. And if you have a friend that has not seen our show, call them and tell them that we're on live.
And call in. Don't
The
be shy.
we don't care if you call in.
Oh, come on,
The
we'd love for you to
fourth
call in.
Monday, right?
4th
7 o'clock.
Monday, is that
Fourth
right?
Monday
Yeah,
at 7 o'clock.
4th Monday of the
And
month.
we'll be here, and we'll be taking your calls live, and we thoroughly enjoy this.
Thank you to
We
the gentlemen
hope
in
you
the
have.
studio. They're always a blast
Yeah,
and fun to hang out with.
John's gone somewhere today, so we
We
had a
don't
lot
need
of fun. We had a lot of fun. We love you all, and thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for participating. And
Hi, Dad.
we love to see you in the not inside this environment. When you walk up to us on the street, that's
Come
always
see us
fun.
outside. Fun.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
The Garden Doctor.